Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. Tonight, I want to go over my favorite and least favorite song off the albums of one of my favorite groups from the 1990s, that being Collective Soul. In my opinion, one of the most underappreciated bands to come out of the 1990s. A band that had boatload of hits back in that decade, but it just seems like ever since about 99 or 2000, they've almost been forgotten about. And it's a shame because they've been putting out pretty good music ever since then. So I'm going to go through their 11 studio albums and give you my favorite and least favorite song off of each of them. So let's go back to 1994 for the band's first album, Hints, Allegations, and Things Left Unsaid. My favorite song on here is Burning Bridges, just edging out Goodnight Good Guy and Scream. Burning Bridges has just grown on me over the years. It's just a really catchy track, especially that chorus. Real earworm of a song. My least favorite song is actually pretty easy to pick out. It's the only song on here I'm not a big fan of, and that is Sister Don't Cry. So I'm going to go with Burning Bridges as my favorite, and Sister Don't Cry is my least favorite. Next up, we have the band's second studio album, Collective Soul, aka Collective Soul 95, or the Blue Album, self-titled album 95. However you want to refer to it, it's the album that has a lot of their big hits, like The World I Know, and December, and Gel, all of which are great songs. This is probably the album where my favorite song changes the most often, because you got those three songs I just mentioned, plus you've got Simple, which is a great album opener. Where the River Flows is a really, really cool, heavy track. When the Water Falls is one of my favorite songs on the back end of the album. But the way that I've been feeling lately, I'm going to go with Untitled as my favorite. I've been really digging that song a lot lately. My least favorite song, again, is actually pretty easy to pinpoint. It's Collection of Goods. It's the only song on here that I'm not real crazy about. I don't dislike the song, but I'm just not a real big fan of it either. So my favorite is Untitled. My least favorite is Collection of Goods. Next up, we have the very first Collective Soul album that I ever bought, their third studio album, Discipline Breakdown. Another great album from Collective Soul. A lot of contenders for favorites, such as Precious Declaration, Listen, Maybe, Full Circle, Blame, Everything. But I'm going to go with In Between. I just think is a really awesome, laid-back track. I've always dug that one a lot. My least favorite song, and I like it, but I would have to go with Link. I think just kind of process of elimination. Still not a bad song, though. So I'm going to go with In Between as my favorite song, and Link is my least favorite. Next up, we have the band's fourth studio album, released in 1999, Dosage. An amazing album, in my opinion. Boatload of contenders for favorite tracks, such as Tremble for My Beloved, Heavy, No More, No Less, Needs, Slow, Run, Compliment. But I'm going to go with Generate as my favorite song on here. Gosh, it's so hard to pick because this is just so chock full of great songs. But I'm going to go with Generate. There's something about that song that I've always just really kind of dug. My least favorite, again, is actually pretty easy to narrow down. It's Crown. It's the only song on here I'm not a big fan of. Dandy Life I wasn't crazy about when I first bought this album, but that one has grown on me. I like Dandy Life quite a bit now. Of course, the only other song on here I don't think I mentioned is Not the One, which is a great song. I was never crazy about Crown for some reason. I kind of wish that maybe they would have just closed the album with She Said, which would still actually be my least favorite song on the album, but I like that song a lot more than Crown. So maybe it's just me. Everyone else might like Crown a lot more than me, and that's perfectly fine. But I've never been crazy about Crown, but I have been crazy about Generate. So Generate's my favorite, and Crown is my least favorite. Next up, we have the band's fifth studio album, Blender, released in 2000. Another great album, one of my personal favorites. This album kicks off with two of my top three favorite Collective Soul songs of all time, Skin and Vent. So they are definitely the contenders, along with tracks like Why Part 2, which I love, and Turn Around, and The Cover, You Speak My Language, and After All, and Over Tokyo, all great songs. I gotta give the edge, though, to Skin. Just slightly over Vent. You ask me next week, I might change my mind, but I'm gonna go with Skin today. And my least favorite song on this album, again, it's pretty easy to pick out, though I don't dislike the song, and it would be Perfect Day. I like the other 10 songs better. I don't think Perfect Day is a bad song. I just like the other 10 better. So I'm going to go with Skin as my favorite, and Perfect Day is my least favorite. Next up, we have the band's sixth studio album released in 2004, that being Youth. My favorite song on Youth is a pretty deep cut, the penultimate track of the album, General Attitude. I think that one edges out songs like There's a Way, Counting the Days, and Perfect to Stay. And all those songs rhyme. But yeah, I'm going to go with General Attitude as my favorite on here. There's a few contenders for least favorite. I think this is the first album actually where the least favorite song actually has some contenders instead of being pretty straightforward. I'm not really a big fan of Home. I'm not that big a fan of How Do You Love, and I'm not a big fan of Under Heaven Skies. I would have to say Under Heaven Skies would be my least favorite, though. I just never really got into that one. So I'm going to go General Attitude as my favorite, and Under Heaven Skies my least favorite. Next up, we have the band's seventh studio album, released in 2007, Afterwards. Personally, my favorite Collective Soul album. I mean, between this and Blender, I don't know. I just have to give this one the edge just by a hair, but Blender is right there as well. And of course, Dosage ain't far behind either. But I love this one. I love every track on here. But my favorite Collective Soul song of all time is Persuasion of You. So that, of course, is going to be my favorite track on the album. Other great tracks, New Vibration, What I Can Give You, Never Here Alone, Bearing Witness, All That I Know, Hollywood, Georgia Girl. My least favorite song on here, oh man, I like all of them, but I'd have to say Adored is my least favorite. It's still a good song, but I think it would have to be my least favorite. Persuasion to You, my favorite, and Adored, my least favorite. Next up, we have the band's eighth studio album, released in 2009, the second self-titled album in the band's catalog. So this one is Collective Soul 2009, self-titled 09, sometimes referred to as the Bunny album, the Rabbit album, whatever you want to call it. I gotta go with Welcome All Again as my favorite song. That is the song that really turned me on to Collective Soul. Though I had heard the band name before, I had heard the big hits before, that was the one that really made me feel like I need to check these guys out because this song is awesome when it was new and still playing on the radio. My least favorite song on here is My Days. Not a bad song, just not crazy about it either. So Welcome All Again, my favorite, and My Days, my least favorite. Next up, we have 2015, See What You Started by Continuing, the ninth studio album. This one has contenders for both favorite and least favorite. My favorite songs on here, you've got Hurricane, you've got Exposed, you've got Are You the Answer, Am I Getting Through? All great songs. I think I'm gonna give Are You the Answer the edge and say that's my favorite song on here. Hurricane's really close, but I'm gonna go with Are You the Answer, I think. My least favorite song, there's some contenders. So this is the ninth studio album and only the second time that there's actually contenders for least favorite track. I've never cared for Confession, I've never cared for Tradition, and I've never cared for Without Me. And I have to say my least favorite of the three would be Confession. So Confession, my least favorite, and Are You the Answer, my favorites. Next up, we have the band's 10th studio album, released in 2019, Blood. My favorite song on here, I would have to say, is Right as Rain, pretty easily. Though I like Big Sky. Crushed has grown on me over the years, but I think Right as Rain still pretty easily is my favorite track on the album. My least favorite song, there's a number of songs on here I've never gotten that into or was never that crazy about, but Changed is definitely my least favorite. So Right as Rain, my favorite, and Changed, my least favorite. That brings us to the most recent studio album, the 11th, released in 2022, that being Vibrating. My opinion, amazing album. Contenders for favorite, any of the first 5 tracks could be up there, along with A Conversation With. Cut the Cord, Reason, All Our Pieces. But I think when it comes down to it, I gotta go with Take. Take's amazing. Not that the other songs aren't, but I think I gotta give the edge to Take. My least favorite song, it's between Rule Number 1 and Back Again. I don't dislike either song. I just like the other 8 better. I'd have to say Rule Number 1, probably my least favorite. So I'm going to go with Take as my favorite and Rule Number One as my least favorite. And hopefully, sometime this year in 2024, they will be releasing a new studio album. They've got one. I forget what the title of it is. I think they dropped the title for the album. And it's supposed to come out. I think the popular theory is in April or May. I hope that's the case. Sometimes Collective Soul drag their feet and releasing some of these albums sometimes. So I'm hoping that it will be out in 2024, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I'll have to update this video when that happens. But until then, let me know in the comments below your favorite and least favorite song off every Collective Soul album. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future. And I will catch you in the next video.